welcome. We have some very interesting documentation about this Hunyuan3D 2.0.
Yeah.
Looks like you're really into 3D asset creation, and this system is amazing.
It really is.
Basically takes images, even sketches, and turns them into these fully textured, high-resolution 3D models.
Yeah, and we're going to try to break it down for you, this
Yeah.
cutting edge technology.
So this system is really fascinating because it uses like a two-stage process to kind of handle this complicated task, right?
Right.
So it starts by generating the basic 3D shape, which we call a mesh.
Yeah.
That's done by Hunyuan3D 2.0. And then once we have that that foundation.
Yeah, then Hunyuan3D Paint kind of takes over from there.
Right.
And adds all the textures, makes it look photorealistic.
And that two-step approach is super clever because it's efficient and gives you more creative flexibility.
It does.
It's like, you're building a house, you wouldn't try to lay the foundation and paint the walls at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So as we go through this research, you're going to see that Hunyuan3D 2.0 can even handle things like animation and even creating those stylized low-polygon models.
And this kind of automated 3D asset creation.
Yeah.
It's a major development,
Yeah.
Traditionally, creating 3D models took forever.
Yeah, it was so time-consuming.
Yeah, it was very time-consuming and really required specialized skills.
Yeah.
Hunyuan3D 2.0 is really changing that.
Yeah, it really seems like it is.
Making it a lot easier for people to create 3D content.
So let's look at how Hunyuan3D 2.0 creates these models.
Okay.
It uses something called a diffusion model.
Right.
So imagine you start with this blurry, undefined blob.
Okay.
And this model gradually refines that blob, guided by the image that you provide, until it forms this crisp, detailed 3D shape.
Yeah, and a crucial element here is something called shape VAE.
Okay.
And that compresses the shape information, all that complex shape information, into a more manageable form. Makes it easier for that diffusion model to work with. I see. Think of it as a blueprint that captures all the essential geometric details of the shape.
Okay, I get it. And what I think is really interesting is how they've incorporated importance sampling into this process.
Right.
So that means that the system's going to pay extra attention to areas with finer details, right?
Yeah.
So it ensures that those intricate features in your image are really accurately reflected in that 3D model.
And to handle all this information, Hunyuan3D 2.0 uses a special type of neural network. It's particularly good at understanding that relationship between your image and the final 3D shape.
Wow.
And you can actually see in Figure 7 in the research how well it captures all sorts of details.
Okay.
Like, facial features, subtle bumps on a surface, even the fine lines of a company logo.
So we've talked about the shape. Now let's move on to Hunyuan3D Paint.
Okay.
So this is how it adds texture to these 3D models.
Right.
Imagine wrapping a high-resolution picture around that 3D shape. And Hunyuan3D Paint basically creates a map of the object surface.
Right.
Showing how it should look.
It's called a texture map.
Yeah. And the really intriguing aspect here is how they've addressed the whole issue of lighting. So when you take a photo of an object, that lighting significantly affects how those colors and textures appear.
Yeah.
But this system has a special module that removes those lighting effects so it makes sure that the texture itself looks right, regardless of the lighting conditions in your final 3D scene.
Right, so you have more control over the final look of your model.
Yeah, so it's not just about slapping a texture on.
No.
This system analyzes the 3D shape using all these complex techniques to make sure that texture flows naturally over the surface and aligns perfectly with that underlying form.
And the results are quite diverse.
Yeah, they are.
If you look at Figure 8, you'll see examples of textures like scales, tiles, even metallic surfaces. It's not just about creating new textures either. Right.
Figure 9 shows how this can be used for what they call reskinning.
Okay.
Basically giving existing 3D models a whole new look by just applying a different texture.
And the research also compares Hunyuan3D 2.0 to other similar systems, including some commercial ones, and they used various methods to assess its performance, and they found that Hunyuan3D 2.0 consistently performs better. Especially when it comes to making sure that final 3D model matches that original image.
They even conducted a user study.
Oh, wow.
It's shown in Figure 10, where people compared Hunyuan3D 2.0 to other systems, and the participants consistently rated Hunyuan3D 2.0 higher.
Interesting.
Particularly in how accurately it recreated the details from the original image.
Now, all of this technology is integrated into a platform called Hunyuan3D Studio.
It is.
And this studio aims to make 3D production easier for both professionals and beginners.
Yes.
It has tools for those experienced users.
But it's also designed to be intuitive enough for someone who's totally new to 3D modeling.
And one of the most interesting features is something they call sketch to 3D.
Okay.
It does what it says. You make a sketch of your idea, and the studio transforms it into a 3D model.
So cool.
So you could quickly create 3D models, even if you don't have any training in 3D modeling.
That's amazing.
Now, Hunyuan3D Studio also has a module for what they call low polygon stylization.
Okay.
This is important for optimizing 3D models for use in video games or other applications where performance is a concern.
Makes sense.
So it takes those detailed models and simplifies them, reducing the number of polygons without losing too much visual detail.
And of course, any good 3D studio needs animation tools.
It does.
So this studio has a 3D character animation feature.
It does.
That can take those static models and make them move.
Yes.
Uses motion templates and other techniques.
Right.
So you don't need to be an expert animator to give your models lifelike movement.
Makes it so much easier to get into animation.
We'll be back shortly to continue exploring Hunyuan3D 2.0.
So the fact that Hunyuan3D 2.0 is open source, that's a major development.
Yeah, it is.
You know, in a field that's often dominated by proprietary software, making their research and code freely available, that's a big deal.
It's huge.
Yeah.
The research is very transparent.
Yeah.
About the methods, data sources, even the limitations of the technology.
Yeah, and this approach really encourages collaboration, you know?
Definitely.
Helps accelerate progress in the field.
I agree.
This open approach is refreshing.
Absolutely.
And it opens up so many possibilities, you know?
Yeah.
Researchers can build on this work, explore new applications, and push the boundaries of what we can achieve with these models.
Yeah, and even for people who are working on practical applications.
Right.
Having access to this level of technology without licensing restrictions.
I know, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredibly valuable. It feels like a significant step towards making 3D content creation more accessible.
It really does.
Something that I was thinking about as we were reviewing this research is the enormous amount of data involved.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking massive data sets of 3D models and images.
Right. We've seen this in other areas of AI, right?
Yeah.
Large, high-quality data sets.
Yeah.
Crucial in achieving breakthroughs.
Absolutely.
You know, the developers of Hunyuan3D 2.0 use data sets like Objaverse, which contains millions of 3D objects.
That's crazy.
And this data was used to train their models.
And it's not just about the quantity of the data, right? It's the quality and diversity of that data that's important as well.
Absolutely.
The researchers were very careful to make sure that their data sets represented a wide range of objects, styles,
and levels of complexity.
Yeah.
The goal is to have a system that can create many different types of 3D assets.
Yeah.
Versatility and adaptability are crucial.
Yeah, they are.
And Hunyuan3D 2.0 seems to really achieve this.
It does.
Offering this robust toolkit for a wide range of 3D content creation needs.
Hunyuan3D Studio, I feel like, really embodies the researcher's vision.
It does.
Of making 3D creation more accessible and intuitive.
Yeah.
Like the interface is sleek and easy to use. The tools are well organized, easy to understand.
And the layout feels inspired by 2D image editing software.
I agree.
Which makes the transition to 3D less intimidating.
Less scary, for sure.
Yeah, and that's a significant factor in ensuring wider adoption of this technology, right?
Absolutely.
We need to make these tools easy for people to use.
Yeah.
Regardless of their technical background.
And Hunyuan3D Studio does a great job of that.
It does.
It provides a nice balance of those powerful features for advanced users with intuitive workflows that guide beginners through the process.
They've done well to balance these needs.
They have.
And it's really exciting to consider how this platform might evolve as the technology continues to improve.
Like, what's next? I can imagine features like real-time collaboration.
Yeah.
Where multiple artists could work together on a single 3D model.
That would be cool.
Or maybe even integration with virtual reality, enabling users to kind of sculpt and texture objects.
Right, in a virtual 3D environment.
Yeah, exactly. The possibilities are vast.
They really are.
And this research highlights the potential for 3D content creation in the future.
It does.
Like, it suggests a world where 3D design is open to anyone with a creative spark.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's take a pause here.
Okay.
And we'll come back to wrap up our exploration of Hunyuan3D 2.0. Welcome back to our deep dive into Hunyuan3D 2.0.
So the Hunyuan3D team, they didn't just stop at like the core functions, right?
Right.
They also explored these kind of related areas that I think are worth taking a look at.
Yeah, definitely.
And one of those is low polygon stylization.
Yeah. So Hunyuan3D 2.0 is amazing at creating those, really detailed, high-resolution 3D models. But they also know that sometimes you need simpler models.
Yeah.
So, if you're building a video game or something.
Right, exactly.
You might need to optimize those models.
Yeah, for like smoother performance.
Yeah.
So they actually included a module in Hunyuan3D Studio for this specific purpose.
Interesting.
It's a technique that's used to, simplify the models, reduce the number of polygons without sacrificing too much visual quality.
And their approach to low polygon stylization is like a two-step process.
It is.
So first they simplify the mesh,
right,
kind of merging points to reduce the number of polygons.
Right. And then they use this special technique to adjust the texture map.
Okay.
So that all those details are preserved as much as possible.
That makes sense because you don't want to end up with a model that just looks blurry. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it seems like they put a lot of effort into making sure that that texture quality stays high even after the model's been simplified.
And another really cool area they explored is 3D character animation. So while Hunyuan3D 2.0 typically creates these static 3D objects, they also developed a way to animate them.
Okay.
So they use this graph neural network to analyze the 3D model, and it identifies the important skeletal points.
Okay.
And it applies weights to the mesh.
I see.
So this creates like a virtual skeleton that can be animated.
Wow.
And they also included motion templates and other animation techniques. So even someone without a lot of experience in animation can create these really compelling character movements.
So it makes it a lot more accessible, which is really cool.
Yeah, they're providing both powerful tools and the resources to help people actually use those tools.
That's awesome.
Effectively.
So it seems like Hunyuan3D 2.0 is a really big advancement.
It is.
In 3D generative AI.
Yeah.
And the Hunyuan3D Studio platform offers so many tools.
It does.
For actually bringing those assets to life.
And the decision to make this research open source, that's really significant. They're encouraging collaboration and wider access to this really groundbreaking technology.
So it's going to be fascinating to see how this technology evolves, and what kind of new applications emerge.
Right.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Hunyuan3D 2.0.